good morning, good afternoon, and good night.
What's greetings, Earthlings? What up? What up? What up?
Any demographic I
Greetings,
identify
Earthlings.
with.
They're connected to our president.
I think an ignorant voter and a
That's
non-voter
crazy what he did. He took the military out
are
before
one and
he
the
took
same.
the civilians. Who does that?
Under his watch.
What
Know
has
something,
he done
bro.
about police reform in this country? Nothing.
Greetings, Earthlings, and welcome to Unsolicited Genius. I am your curator, Carlton Ennis, and I am with Mr. He'd rather thought-provoke you than choke you, Craig Lindo. And on today's show, we will talk about the slates for November 8th, the middle of the football season, and the songs that capture our souls. We hope to give you something to ponder. What up, Brother Craig? What is up? What is up? What is up?
See, I can't call it. Steal that line from Snoop. I'm trying to stay between sky and earth and not touch dirt.
Ooh, that's a classic.
I'm there.
That's a classic. Where were you when you first heard that Snoop album? Who were you when you first heard that Snoop album?
Oh my God.
It was talking about Doggy Style.
I think I was still wearing Malcolm X t-shirts and had a leather medallion around my neck with the red, green, and black Africa cutout.
That would have been at Miramar, because we was out of middle school. That's high school. So you was rocking that at Miramar. I ain't see you that much. So I don't know how you was living.
I was just transitioning from that, I think. Yeah, because Snoop was 92, 93.
Yep.
Yeah, I was transitioning out of that and into musically, amongst other things, Jodeci, right? That was part of that little era. That was me trying to talk my way into Doc Martens, to rock some Doc Marten boots, right? Like I wanted black jeans like Buckshot Shorty, Black Moon. Like I was what I thought was a typical whatever at that time.
So you remember where I couldn't tell you what I was wearing. Because, I think at this point we were in high school. So for me, it was about, clothes had kind of settled. It mattered, but it wasn't as pertinent. I think sneakers mattered. But I remember my memory of playing that Snoop album for the first time after, Chronic, which I think is the greatest hip hop album ever made. I just felt like music, hip hop could never be defeated, right? Like I just felt like to be Snoop, the way he landed on the scene with a deep cover soundtrack and then the Chronic, and then he came out with Doggy Style. It was like, yo, this music, music, hip hop is forever.
Yeah.
Hip hop is forever.
As far as where I was, I could tell you a general place like in life that was, because I had always been the oddball listening to West Coast stuff even before then, kind of. Was this group called 187. I was going hard on them. The DOC, I probably had 2 copies of that cassette.
DOC?
Because I played the first DOC till it popped, right? And notice
that
I'm
DOC
saying
was
cassette.
live. That DOC was live. Okay.
You know what I mean? Easy to say NWA. Like, I think Souls of Mischief might have came shortly after that, or right around that time. I started to hear about them.
I hadn't heard that in a long time. So yeah, you was on that West Coast, but all right, we digressed too early in the show.
This is how we chill from 93
We digressed too early in the show, but all right. So today is November 7th. I have on my Go Vote shirt. That's what we'll call it. Election day tomorrow. Election or not elect. Yeah. Voting day tomorrow,
midterms.
Right? Midterm elections tomorrow. And if you turn on your television, whatever network that you watch, Fox, CNN, NBC, Spectrum, BBC, they'll tell you that a lot is at stake. I voted early. You can share whether you did or didn't. I'll leave that up to you. But with the thought of so much being at stake, how are you viewing whatever happens after tomorrow?
I am interested in a few things. One is, with recent history and attempted coups and the failure to respect the electoral process, I am wondering if/where will we see more of that tomorrow? Because there are people that kind of saw the recently attempted softcore coup as something that, oh, he came close. If we just do this and this and this, we'll get it next time. Like there's some people that take that outlook. So I am actually most curious about seeing how some of these people handle losing.
Okay, I was tracking one direction, but what you're saying is for those that lose, in particular on the side that doesn't handle losing well, you wonder where the arguments, the protests, it wasn't done right, the legality challenges, all that stuff will rear its head after tomorrow. At some, it may start tomorrow, but
yeah.
Okay, yeah, that one.
And being in a state where there was clear last minute redlining and gerrymandering, I wanted to see how that impacts the election and hear how the stories come out, because I'm sure it didn't just only happen here.
Yeah, no doubt. That's insightful. And I think that is something to factor in. Clearly, it doesn't dictate how anybody votes. So if you hear us tonight, please show up. People died for this right. And don't do it because they died. Do it because it matters. It's not the only thing that matters. We've talked about it several times on this show. There's money, there's lobbyists, there's other things, the redlining and how it's impacted what we're doing. But all that don't matter if nobody show up. So at minimum, go out and vote. But I guess for me, what resonates on my side, I'm in Texas and we have the gubernatorial race taking place between current governor Greg Abbott and Beto O'Rourke. And it don't look good. I find it so interesting as I watch the commercials and the different ads that talk about, that just add stuff to it. You know what I mean? Like it's not, it's like these constant untruths. Like it's one thing, well, not even one thing. We already know they lie and mislead when you interview them. We already know there's manipulation within Congress or, whether national or state government buildings where they vote, there's lying, manipulation, all those things happening. But when I'm just kicking it, trying to watch the game, kicking it, watching Bob's Burger or whatever I'm doing, and these commercials come in, it's like they continue to perpetuate farce. They continue to perpetuate lies and manipulation. And it is such a game that's being played with people's lives. In Texas, snowpocalypse, the grid failed, the electrical grid failed, and people died. Texas leads the country in school shootings. Children are dying. Some of the harshest, toughest abortion laws are in Texas, but they maintain that farce through the lies. To watch Governor Abbott talk anything about real facts, talk about reality, it's a constant manipulation. And for me, it's so obvious because him and his counterparts, Ted Cruz, all these other folks, they do and say the same thing. And so it doesn't look good in terms of Beto or versus Abbott. It's leaning, all the early vote signs point to
exit polling.
Exit polling point to Abbott. But for me, it's the outcome, because that means Texas will continue to be led in this particular direction. One of the concerns more nationwide, but true in Texas, is where you have the governor races, the Supreme Court is looking at giving the states more power over the elections. And so to your point, when we have an attempted coup at the Capitol, or is attempted or did, but the shenanigans that happened at the Capitol, abortion being undone, violence, gun rights, gun rules, regulations, all those things aren't in place, haven't been in place. And if get reelected, what's the motivation to put them in place? So for me, I'm not doom and gloom in terms of the future of the country, whether I'm being naive or not. But basically, it's like this game that's being played with people's lives. And I voted, but I still feel like I'm almost in victim mode, sitting and waiting to watch the shenanigans unfold with nothing to do to stop it, except, hop on the podcast and talk about it and maybe one day these words will influence, somebody to go, do some things different where they can.
I mean, at least one of the candidates in your state is running for governor to be governor. We neither one. Well, ours is only running to governor to run for president, and you know what I'm saying. He only wants to be governor, be president, and like so we don't. I don't like any of our options. I don't like either one. Neither one's a step forward. Neither one of them has ever genuinely, in my opinion, served any demographic I identify with. No demographic that I identify with has been served by either of these individuals consistently and fairly over the years. And speak in terms of misrepresentation, yes, I remember one of the first things I learned when I came here was about how Manhattan was acquired from the indigenous people. They don't tell the same story about 24 trinkets and all that anymore, but basically the summary of it is they knew that they were hustling the indigenous people out of that land. And it's kind of been always a part of the fabric, right? What I realized in America in recent years, one, the justice system, judicial system is not about right or wrong, it's who has the better lawyer. Two, it is no way illegal in any way, shape, or form to tell a lie, especially to the American public.
It's not.
Lawmakers regulate companies from doing it, right? In terms of advertising, and they find ways around it with clever wordplay and great copywriting for their advertising and marketing schemes. That same skill of, lying by omission or drawing fake parallels or using logic that sounds good lyrically but doesn't add up literally, those are all commonplace in the United States of America political sphere. It is totally built on marketing and creatively selling you a package that we know you're too lazy to go and research. I'm sorry, I've been in K through 12 education for 21 consecutive years. There's one thing I know from the sample size is that 9 out of every 10 people in the population won't go home and read anything.
Right. And it's safe to say that our decision makers, our policy makers know that as well.
Know that and weaponize it. The whole adage, it is not about you want to hide a secret. Some people have racialized this, but if you want to hide something, put it in the book. I don't think that's racialized. I've seen that through my life experience 44 times around the planet and through my 21 consecutive K through 12 classroom openings. 9 out of every 10 people, no matter the age, is lazy as Friday. They're not going to read up or follow up. Research is asking somebody smarter than them. Research is Google. Research is YouTube. Most of the people don't even realize that same subject you typed in on Google, you could actually go a little bit below and look and click journal. And actually what you're researching might actually come from journals, scientific journals. But most people don't even go that far. They're not even aware of that button. It is totally weaponized. There's no punishment for lying to the public unless you're a corporation lying in your advertisement. But then the government openly, consistently to this very moment turns their blind eye to lies by omission and other lies by those same people selling stuff to you, whether it's a product or a policy in terms of American government. The most skilled argument or liar will win, not necessarily best product, not necessarily best policy. And, the more stressed out the population is, the less research they're going to do anyway. So with all the strenuous things taking place on the population, politically speaking, for as much access as we have to information, no other generation in eons has had this much access to the world's information. Yet, in many ways, we're the dumbest fucking generation since before Abraham.
That's a long ways back. So tomorrow, a lot more people vote. So let's pretend a lot of people voting tomorrow watching us right now. We aren't here to tell you to vote Democrat or Republican. You got to vote your heart. You got to vote your beliefs. But, you know, unsolicited genius, what unsolicited advice would you have to offer to tomorrow's voter?
Part of it, you might not really agree with me, Carlton. You sure you want me to answer?
Yeah, man, go ahead.
All right.
We're not a monolith.
I think an ignorant voter and a non-voter are one and the same. If you are totally ignorant to everything on that ballot, I'm not one of the people that'll tell you vote anyway. You know something.
Okay. All right.
And my thing is, if you are currently somebody that is always voting along party lines, I would encourage you to explore a philosophy of policy over party. Unless you've been jumped in and given a check, don't be so gang about it.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, you know, I encourage people to vote. I think you're right in the sense that there's challenges with an uninformed voter and a, you know, in comparison to a non-voter. I've heard perspective that says that, you know, everybody shouldn't just be able to vote. We have to take a test, prove some citizenship, prove some knowledge, prove some understanding. And then I've heard the converse that talks about how much had been done over the course of American history to restrict voting rights, right? So, you know, I can get on board with not preventing people to vote if they don't know what they're doing, but
it is a personal choice to me. Like, if I don't know, so I'll skip that on the ballot.
Yeah. That
right. There's been
with
years
you.
where I'm like, all right, look, I know nothing. I'm not going.
So I think for me, my advice is to realize that your work doesn't stop at tomorrow's vote. Granted, in 2 years, we'll be electing another president, but regardless, you know, what I would like to challenge folks to do is take an assessment of where you are. As a life coach, I work with some of my clients on the wheel of life, you know, finances, spirituality, health, relationships, just, you know, your overall holistic well-being. Take an assessment, rate it, you know, scale of 1 to 10. 1 sucks, 10 is great, right? Understand where you are. And over the course of these 2 years, assess where you are as it is being impacted by the lawmakers. And so maybe one side is right, maybe one side is wrong, maybe one side can do better, maybe both sides are missing the point. But they all got on stage, they all got these commercials, they all are in your inboxes, in your inputs, wherever they can get to, telling you what they will and won't do, telling you what's wrong with the other side. So hold them accountable. If they say they're gonna do it, Governor Abbott, protect the children in the schools. Like his response to everything is more guns. And that is not our savior. You know, taxes, the housing in Texas is horrific. The homeless is growing throughout major cities in the state. So he say he a great man. He say he do great things. He say he cares about the great state of Texas and all of its citizenship. So let him prove it. You know, he's been talking the talk for 8 years. I don't necessarily think he's proved it. There were better times. I've been here for a long time, but you know, hold them accountable. Florida, Texas, Georgia, where are some other tight races? Arizona, Wisconsin. You know, these things, they're going to play out tomorrow, one way or the other. Not much me and Craig going to do between now and tomorrow night that shifts the trajectory of what's already set in place. But after tomorrow, whoever you voted for, check some boxes.
Yeah.
See how you're doing financially. See what your tax bill is a year from now. But hold them accountable. Do your self-assessment and see what it looks like 2 years from now, and then use that information to vote either the same or, as Craig's saying, open and expand. Know what you're talking about. Know what you're doing. Know who they are, and vote accordingly. You gonna say something?
No, I was saying you shout out to you. You gave them a little bit of that life coaching for free. Next time y'all gonna get charged for that. But
you need to put the PayPal or something at the bottom.
Yeah, right. Some advice comes after a paywall, right? It's hard to keep up. You know, it's hard to keep up on your household and then keep up on every, you know, how many days does Rubio actually show up to work? Because it'd probably be easier to keep up on how often he shows up, because how often he misses is such an exorbitant number. Or listening to this guy brag about how he gave teachers raises. Hey, yo, it was less than 1%. He's bragging about that. And that was
we're talking about
one in God
DeSantis,
knows
right?
how long.
Just for clarification.
Yeah. Both of them lying. And, or even how they created, essentially, he copycatted because he heard about what's going on with CRT over there. Have I mentioned I've been in the classroom 21 years? We've never had a conversation about CRT until DeSantis decided he wanted to run for governor in the state of Florida. That was not an issue in the state of Florida ever until he heard, oh, well, let me show off for the Texas voters to show them I'm a tough guy over here myself. That has nothing to do with Florida. It's never been an issue in Florida. Never, ever. Still isn't.
Well, the fact that he's wanting to be president has him in the radar of Donald Trump. And so he calls him Ron the Sanctimonious. I thought that was hilarious. So yeah, the Sanctimonious gave y'all 1%, huh? Less than 1%. Less than 1%.
Yes, it was 0 point something percent raise.
All right.
No, he didn't make us amongst the highest paid teachers in the country at all. Like, he made the floor more recognizable as far as your entry point. We're still nowhere near the middle. Like,
teachers. We probably need to do an episode just to let some teachers talk about it, right? Put that on the back burner. Producer in the sky. It's a lot of people. I have teachers friends, you, Mo, some others, in and out all areas of my life. But, there are a lot of people that speak on behalf of teachers. And I think, teachers, physicians, there's certain people across industry that are heavily impacted by lawmakers, and so many people, whether it's the lawmakers, media, or the casual citizens speaking on their behalf, lobbyists. So, it might be an idea. All right, so go ahead.
No, I'm saying even the lobbyist thing even impacts us, and even right down to agreeing on and what companies and in terms of just getting a textbook. They impact everything.
All right, well, we talk money, right? So let's talk about some money makers. Kanye and Kyrie. All right. Two highly paid individuals. I ain't hating, go get what you could get. But they are both in the news, and they both managed to offend the Jews. So all that said, my question to start with the discussion, Kanye and Kyrie, and you can pick whoever you want. Genius or nah?
Ye is potentially a musical genius socially, but even then, full clarity, I still haven't heard Donda. I'm not even interested in it. I haven't been on hardcore. I'm not one of the people that just recently kind of lost the stomach for him. After graduation, I barely listen to the guy except for when he's featured. Socially, he's an irritant to me in certain respects, just because I could hear the genius points, but some of the delivery methods and choices, and I mean, there's always people that are attracted to that much mess. He was around the Rockefeller mess. He's always around some mess. He's around the Kardashian mess. Like, I know these women will never, ever, ever, ever look for my page, but they're all blocked. I have no interest in seeing them even on social media. So there's like, as far as the social half of Kanye, I'd been taking step backs for years. I've had to try and catch up on some of his social blunders in the last few weeks because it's become such a storm of poo-poo. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's been so wild that I have to try and catch up. But musically, I can make the argument that he's a genius. Socially, he's around so many messes. In terms of this recent stuff, focusing on the overlap between him and Kyrie, they don't have, look, he's been saying, both of them been saying quote unquote crazy things for years. But there is one or two, or maybe there is a short list of overlapping points that they made in reference to their own genealogical past. And that's what's pissed everybody off. It's not the link that he tweeted. It's an Amazon link, bro.
It was
You're not
Jeff
really. It's
Bezos is
an
Jewish.
like it's an Amazon movie that's available on Amazon. What's up?
I said Jeff Bezos Jewish, right? Not that he has say
Exactly.
so of, you know, every
Like,
aspect of it, but point
and
received.
then exactly. And as somebody that has, you know, I know some people don't think it's useful, but I read Mein Kampf or read through Mein Kampf. There's genius in it. Do I agree with the philosophy of the authors or whatever? You could have something that is academically put together in a sound coherent way and it still be offensive. That is part of the fundamental. When I came to this country, I was told that the fundamental principle of free speech is I might not like what you say. I might not agree with what you say, but I will defend your right to say it. Part A. Have I heard Kanye say something directly offensive? Maybe I've missed one of those clips. I don't know about that, but I do think that what is being reacted to is, you know, making reference to the possibility that and people that originated in the African continent, that region, the subcontinent, etc., that some of the people of a particular faith could have been melanated like me. It stands to reason if everywhere you go on the planet, Aboriginals are melanated, and this is one of the oldest faiths and all this, like there's to think that it's not possible for the ancient Hebrews to be melanated is ridiculous. And speaking of the semantical argument, there's difference between ancient Hebrew, Jew, and Jewish. And it's not lost on me, you know, suffixes. So I don't know. I just think because he made a claim that is based in a genealogical identity and he looks a certain way, I think that's why the two of them are getting fried. It's sad that Kyrie has to lose his basketball career over it, but just like that, he won't be the first basketball player. I don't even think they're gonna offer him another contract. I think he's done.
So I'll start with Kyrie and then go to Kanye. You know, Kyrie was done a long time ago. I think at whatever point basketball didn't matter as much as some of these other things, and I can't begin to, you know what they are. But at the end of the day, you know, this season, let's see, right? This season's new, but in the past, 4 or 5 seasons, dude ain't been on the court, right? He has not showed up. He plays a couple games here and there. He pissed his teammates off. Boston said he wasn't a good leader, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So I think career-wise, Kyrie was already making his bed. Now, the thought leader that he is wanting to be lacks for a little bit, because for me, it's hard for me to move away the earth was flat thing. And I don't recall him coming out to say, I was just playing, y'all. You know, I can't imagine that he believes that the earth is flat, but he still put it out there and he talks and challenges and questions, which you should. But, you know, it's one thing for a thought-seeking, knowledge-seeking individual to, you know, to thrive, to attain knowledge, to share and enlighten. And it's another thing to have a 5-year-old, Dad, what about Dad? What about Mom? What about, right? And I feel like Kyrie exhibits just a lack of, and when he gets called out on it, he gets mad. You know, he had the whole Call of Duty thing sometime earlier this year, last year, where he was playing this video game and was reporting, you know, messages on social media about the people hating on him and this, that, or the other. So it's like where content, there's overlap, you know, the Jewish dynamic, different statements, so to speak, between Kyrie and Kanye. But where I see the overlap is their want to say whatever they want to say, but then when it comes back to them, they want to play victim, people against them. It's me against the world. It's y'all don't get me, y'all don't understand me. But dude, what you're saying don't make sense. And so when I look at Kanye, I've listened through Donda. I'm not a fan of Donda, but there are some tracks that, resonate. He came out with another edition, put the song with 3 Stacks on it. So, and I've heard his features. He got a track with Game at Easy where he dissed, Kim's new boyfriend.
Yeah.
So when it comes to music, I don't have to like every album, but I think he has demonstrated what his genius is, what his strength is. And to me, musically, he probably liked to experiment. I feel like on Donda, it was an effort to try to bring in, the new school sound. He had, a couple of the babies, Lil Baby, The Baby, one of them was on there. You can hear, some mumbling, some just different rhythm and flows to the rap, which, as a creator, have your way with that. But again, it's where does the genius, where does the brilliance lie? You and me, we got our podcast. We're not going in anybody's emergency room trying to perform no surgery. I am not going into a classroom trying to teach anybody K through 12. You are not stepping foot onto a lacrosse field to try to show what you can do. Your genius lies in particular spaces. Your genius lies in the lanes in which you've been gifted. And it don't have to be one lane. It could be multiple. But telling me how to live my life, Kyrie, Kanye, that ain't where you are.
See, I don't see them doing that. And from all I've gathered, Twitter and the stuff that I've run into, I don't see them trying to tell me how to live their lives. And honestly, I don't want him to walk back his words, even his words around the earth being flat, especially if it's a bunch of Bible-thumping Christians that want to tell you believe every word in the Bible. In the Bible, it tells you the world is flat anyway. So like, there's that. Like, I don't want him to walk back that. I don't think he's telling me how to live his. I don't see him telling me how to live his life, how to live my life. I don't know if I agree with that take. He's expressing his opinions. It doesn't change my direct deposit. I don't care if he has his opinions. Matter of fact, I have a policy that I would never buy a jersey of a player younger than me. Right? That just
why is that your policy?
It just seems a little bit like Dick Ryder-ish. I just don't see myself. The only exception I really like, Kobe's a couple months younger, technically the same age. But outside of that, I can't see it happening. But I kind of see this thing with him going so far left, I might get a Kyrie jersey. Because I think they're over. He made his opinion, fine. You don't have to agree with it, fine. I don't think we cut his livelihood off because he identifies genetically in ancient history as a Hebrew or Israelite.
Okay,
like I'm not cutting him off for that.
I hear you, and this is layered, right? The suspension too is ridiculous, right? I'm not.
He didn't violate.
I'm not advocating what I'm speaking to. I'm not advocating that he be suspended or what have you. I'm not. That's not where I'm going.
Yeah.
But where I'm going, and whether he's intending to tell anybody how to live their life, it's the push, it's the challenge, it's the articulation, the method at which he chooses to share his opinion is done in such a way that it is received general population about this is the way to see, think, and be. Now, how you choose, like I'm with you, neither one dictates how I live my life.
Yeah.
The reason we're talking about them is they're in the media, they're on TV, it's all throughout my feeds. And I think for me, my frustration is that I want Kyrie to be able to, be a great athlete. And if you have thoughts, opinions, that's what you're supposed to share. But when it comes back to you, when it's disagreed or offenses are taken or you get called out for what you said, there's this tendency, there's this track to play victim. And that's where I'm like, come on, man. Either
your former
say it, own it, or say it, own it, or don't say it. But if you say it and it come back to you, it's not the world hating on you. Go ahead.
I hear that, but think about it. He's just been through an era where he watched somebody be vile, offensive, become president, never apologize for it, try to launch a coup, still ain't apologize for it, and might get reelected. The fuck you asking him for an apology for?
No, that's fair.
If go get one from Trump.
This is me and you
go get
talking.
One for 45.
This is me and you talking. I've never had a conversation with Kyrie. I've never had a conversation with Kanye. And if that's how they, if that's what they see and they say he did it, I could do it too. Hey, go get that. But I too take issue with President Trump in a lot of the things that he says and the way he says it. And I guess for me, as I'm talking to you, the theme for me is the manipulation of the people, which contributes to people climbing the walls in Washington, D.C. and the Capitol building predicated on some shenanigans. So in earlier points, people responsible for themselves, right? So who am I to take issue with anybody, right? They're grown-ass people that chose to climb that wall. But as I react and respond to what I see, I think that's the undertone to which I feel agitation and frustration.
What has more value to you? Seeing Kanye and Kyrie get this little pow and cancellation, or publicizing Epstein's client list?
But like client list, I'm not suggesting any of them get
way
canceled,
more value
right?
to me.
I'm just let's see that list. Let's see that list. But don't get us caught up, because that's
why I think his list is like that. I think they're sitting.
Don't get us
there
caught
are people
up.
currently sitting in seats of power
Please.
That it would top, and I think that's a big part of the reason why.
What's why? Big part of the reason
why you've heard between Maxwell and Epstein, why that was executed the way it was, for the network and circles that they run in, for those names not to come out. That lets you know how many of them have enough power to make sure their name doesn't come out, or they're having the power that in some way to influence that their name doesn't come out. I think that says something.
No, right. What do we know? What do we know? No, right? But if you use your deduction, Watson, you can draw some very, very specific conclusion.
Logic and reason transfers across industry. If you're capable of logic and reason in one area, you're capable of logic and reason in the other, barring understanding jargon, right? Vocabulary. But I didn't bring that up to get us astray. I'm just saying, as far as the value for me, I would rather see pow-pows and punishments handed out on that than, Ye went on Drink Champs and ran his mouth. But he's been talking reckless for years. He went on stage and damn near indicted other artists for being mobsters, like on stage. Like, this dude is different.
Yeah.
I've never been socially a fan of either one of these guys. Kyrie is in one of my top 4 to watch, but I've never answered the question, would you start a franchise? He was never my answer in any conversation, no matter the state of sobriety.
Yeah. Well, I guess to sum it up, let's be clear, right? I ain't advocating for no punishment in shape or form for them saying what they want to say. If Adidas and all these other folks choose to, take sponsorship or arrangements, relationships, Kyrie and Nike, it's a capitalistic society in which we live. They have a right to do what they want to. They got shareholders. They got, people that they're accountable to. I think for me, because they bring value in their craft, Kyrie, basketball, Kanye, music, fashion, some other areas, they bring value in their craft, and they do have value in some of the things they say. It's not like, and I think that's part of the confusion, the manipulation. There is validity to Kyrie's diving into ethnicity, the skin tone of our history, knowing how much gets whitewashed, because regardless of what we know or don't know, the stories as they exist in Hebrew history, the characters involved ain't European, right? They're not from the far north, right? So, but the other stuff on top of that, the antics, the shenanigans that come into it, Kanye and his ex-wife, Kanye threatening the boyfriend, Kanye saying slaves had a choice, all those things, like, that's noise, dude. And so if I had a preference, it wouldn't be there. It's not up to me. And so kind of like everything else, it's to me, to any other person, to our audience, is hear them out, offer empathy. None of us are here to judge. It's okay if you get agitated because, you know, stuff here you see, you hear, you take it in, but go seek your knowledge. Go, like Craig said, even if you Google it, hit the journal, you know, dig deeper. Go to the bookstore, go to the library, and allow yourself to understand your history. You know, with PRT, they're not going to teach it to the kids, but there's things on TV. There's a PBS special. I'm going to misquote it. I'll get the name right before the show ends, but it's related to, you know, hearing it through the grapevine and just how much of our history as Blacks in this country gets lost, but is in every aspect of society as it exists today. Like, those are the
in
things
plain
that,
sight and you're told it's something else.
those are the things we should be seeking. That's the knowledge that I want, you know, I would love for us to exchange. But, you know, we are where we are.
By the way, Zion gonna catch a charge. He out here bullying.
On the court or
on the court. Like you're supposed to take the ball, but you know, you could let the defender keep his arm.
Well, you got to stay healthy. So we'll see. But on that note, we'll take a break and come back and talk about some sports. Wherever we are, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, like, if it's something to be liked, subscribe if it's something to be subscribed to, and follow. That's how we grow our reach. It's how we grow our brand. All right, welcome back, everybody. This is Unsolicited Genius. I'm your curator, Carlton and co-host Craig Lindo. Take a minute to give a shout out to our boy Mo. He has family stuff going on today, so I'm sending him some love, send him some prayers. Pray for him, pray for his fam. Hope all is well very, very soon. All right, what in the sports, Mr. Lindo? What in the sports? What in the sports? So,
I love the fall.
We left talking about Zion, so you want to hop in NBA? What you saying so far besides your Lakers suck? Bizzles.
Oh Lord. Okay.
Besides that,
it you know, and when you're living on the East Coast and you're a fan of a West Coast team, it hurts extra to stay up late to watch them suck. It's a different kind of pain, my guy. It's a different kind of pain. But you know what brings me comfort? I watched the Hurricanes get mollywopped by FSU this past weekend. So I mean, not like I like either team, but neither one are the Gators. So whatever, right? So I'm finding victories other places in the sports world to compensate for my struggling Lakers. You know what I'm saying? I love this time of year anyway, even though my Lakers are less than par, because you got basketball going on, pro football, college football, and college basketball. Oh, I mean, it's just that time of year.
It's a good time of year. No, I agree with you. When I like when basketball gets started, like in October, because then that means, you know, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday football, Monday football, Tuesday, Wednesday, I could feel the void with basketball. So it's like I'm in the sports flow. You know what I mean? So I enjoy this time of year for sure.
A1. But as far as like direct observations, right now, it's early in the NBA. I'm actually kind of impressed with, I don't know if impressed is the right word. I'm fascinated with the youngest Ball brother in Charlotte.
Charlotte, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. As far as a team, I can't make any bold team predictions. He's become one of my favorites to watch on an individual level. As far as on the
Okay.
group level, I didn't think that Miami Heat would age this quickly. The Nets, that's the basketball version of a housewife reality show. Like,
That's a
like,
good.
and,
That's a
and when you
good.
start
That's a
looking at what's
good.
going
Man,
on with
that's
individual
a good
players,
comparison.
I don't know.
No, the Heat. It's hard because I was just having this conversation. I feel like they held on to the magic that was created in the bubble because it's very much the same team, some nuanced difference here and there, but that was what 3 years ago, 2 years ago now, or 2019 to 2020. So that's 3 seasons ago basically, and Jimmy Butler ain't got no younger. Bam hasn't had that that shift in, skill set. So the Bam we have is the Bam we're going to get. I know Tyler Hero, had an improvement from the previous season to last season. His star power grew a little bit coming off the bench, but I think we know, unless something happens, which is always possible, but this is the Tyler we're going to get. And so you see it on the court. Like they not, last year they was killing it. This year to start the season they ain't, and I don't see where it's gonna come from.
One, aging athletically happens so fast. That's one thing. Two, okay, as far as specific personnel, I respect Heat culture and some of the aspects that they do with the body fat thing and all the other stuff that they do. That's great. But here are the points on some specific players. One, Hero's lack of defense, it kind of cancels out his offense.
True that.
To me.
I'll take that.
Jimmy is a very good player, but he is not the him that I think Pat Riley and the Heat thought that they would be getting, right?
He was always a number 2 at he plays his ass off. He tries his damnedest to be a number 1.
He got that, and he got the number
to
one
me, he's
kind of
he
killer
got a number
mentality
1
kind of vibe.
mindset, but to me, he's a number 2 skill.
The guys that created for themselves last year, which got them eliminated, what happened last year, my observation was people realized, hey, all Heat offense comes from turnovers and rebounds, comes from fast breaks generated by their defense. If you just don't turn the ball over, they have no offense.
Be responsible. And
turn the ball over and keep them off the boards if you can.
And that, so to talk Heat, what I don't like is Boston look good, Philly look good, and Milwaukee is killing it. So,
you got
ain't no space
on the
for us in
Udoka
the
thing
East.
In Boston?
Huh? You want to talk about that?
On the Udoka thing in Boston?
Oh man, it's it's kind of like everything else, shenanigans, right? Like, what he did, Neil Long, employee relationship, all that stuff. Yeah. Rules is rules, honor is honor, right? And so he violated both of those. To fire him, all that stuff. For me, my reaction at the time was, fine. Okay, bosses say if you commingle with your co-workers, you got to go, or suspension, what have you, right? That's their rule. It don't make sense to me that even be a rule when you have NBA leagues where where that same rule doesn't exist. It's commingling going on, right? That's just human nature. But in this situation, the Boston Celtics decide that that's their rule, and in following their rule, they put the coach's business on blast, right? So I didn't like that, but what it is. So now he's suspended. I was like, just fire him, get rid, let him go get a job. And then they're talking about him going to Brooklyn. And so I thought that was quick, one, but two, from what I heard, that he could do that based on the agreement or the arrangement with Boston. But I didn't dive into it in the last day or two, but it seems like that may not be happening because it's not a done deal. So I don't, that's kind of the extent of my reaction to that. It's unfortunate that he allowed himself to get caught up in all that stuff. I think he was doing great things with this team and could have built a legacy at a historical franchise. But what are your thoughts?
They were balling. He was doing amazing. Okay, with all the mess that's going on, remove the mess and just think what we saw him do as a coach basketball-wise last year. And then I do think if given the chance, he'd make an incredible positive impact in Brooklyn.
In Brooklyn, yeah.
In addition to that, I wasn't sure exactly all of the reasons KD had them on the list when he was demanding a trade. But now I'm wondering if being able to work with Udoka was one of the reasons why he put Boston on the list, right? It is not weird to find out players like playing for former players. Not that Steve Nash is not a former player, but I don't think he was figuratively castrated when Kyrie came out and said, we don't need a coach, me and da-da-da-da-da. And you know what? They played like they got everything they deserved and what they asked for.
Yeah.
He undervalued the coach, and since then he's what has he done, right? So I'm all for that. I didn't like the figurative castrating of the coach by him. Another one of those things that made me less of a fan, so to speak, of the player. Again, nice to watch, but I could do that with the sound.
His skills is unmatched, really.
Is out of there. This same team that you see me talking about here earlier this evening, though, just on the quick switch,
Pelicans.
That's the last one on the list that I'm curious about, because I like the pieces they have in New Orleans. I'm curious to see how they put it together.
Out the West, for me, I'm eyeballing the Pelicans, the Grizzlies, and I want Chris Paul to get one, man. I want Chris Paul to get one. A lot of perspective about him as a person, player. Yeah, a lot of perspective on him, person, player, probably all deserve, again, opinion across the board, but just knowing the effort, his commitment to the game of basketball, what he's done, the craft at which he's mastered, the style of play. I get to the point where even, don't love an individual, that when they've contributed to the sport, I like to see them get a ring so that they get one. Like the Patriots, right? Back when Randy Moss was with the team.
You've always been a far more involved brother than I am, man.
When the Patriots played my Giants that first time in the Super Bowl, my consolation prize, had it not gone our way, would have been Randy Moss getting him a ring. Just, because I value what he gave to the game. But as a Heat fan, I could give two tears in the bucket about Brooklyn being successful, right? That's just more competition in a way.
Yeah.
But as a sports fan, I would be very curious to see what the coach would do, what Udoka could bring. But my question, maybe is it going to happen, or is that just off the table at this point?
I think with the mess that's going on, I think more than one person realizes it could be a good basketball fit. I just don't see it happening in the near future with all the mess going on around.
Okay.
One, Udoka got his own mess. Two, Brooklyn got their own mess. I mean, it's kind of like that would be like the equivalent of a Housewives crossover, right? The Housewives of LA meet the Housewives of Atlanta.
I don't watch none of them, but I would imagine that they've done it. Have they not?
I'm talking all this crap like I know what goes on them. I'm just talking crap. Somebody gonna be mad at me.
Yeah, stop judging them housewives, man. They mean a lot to a lot of people.
Yeah, but look, I crack my jokes, but I seen one or two pictures. She could slide to the DMs.
Or one of the housewives.
There's a few of them. There's not. Yeah, like I talk all this trash, but it's not like I've never seen a screen or something like, oh, what's that? Like, sure, whatever.
You can't win the game if you don't shoot your shot. You can't win the game if you don't shoot your shot. So
shoot.
I won't, I be on the reality show, man. That just give the podcast more publicity, man. Go do your thing. You got some swagger.
I'm probably past that age.
All right, so let's talk NFL. So NBA still early, NFL pretty much at its halfway point. It's 17 games now. So what's half? 8.5, something like that. So what me and Mo tend to do is go by conference. If you would humor me, I'm gonna go by conference, kind of, share my thoughts, perspective. My fantasy football team is doing relatively well. So I feel like I have some credibility. I came in third last year. I have some credibility to speak on these things. All right. So I'm gonna go in order. AFC East. Interesting. Very interesting. I think playoff picture, Patriots side. Well, let me say it differently. Buffalo should make the playoffs. Buffalo should win the division, but the Jets and the Dolphins are not going to make it easy. Both of them have already beat Buffalo. So that's going to be a tough one. The AFC East, the NFC East will come back too, but the AFC East is going to be it's intriguing. And New England, as bad as they've looked, they're only one game behind both the Dolphins and the Jets. And so let's see, how that particular division plays out. I can't see New England making the playoffs because I don't think they're better than the other three teams.
Your power three in order 1, 2, and 3 in the AFC East will be which three? Your power three.
My power three. Ooh. If I'm voting today, I'm gonna give the money to the Dolphins. They're not playing with y'all. If Tua's healthy, he's 6-0 when he starts and finishes a game. And they've already beat the Bills. So it's weird. It's weird to see the Dolphins balling. If that the two don't often go in the same sentence. But I give the Dolphins, the Bills, the Jets, and then the Patriots.
Yeah. Well, I'm still down here about Joe Robbie. What you talking about? Of course I know.
All right, so AFC North, Steelers, forget about it. Browns, forget about it. Deshaun Watson gonna come back. Is gonna be, well, based on what I see.
Yeah.
What's up?
Hold up. I don't know if I got your last right. So your power three in AFC East was Fins 1.
Fins 1, Bills 2.
Okay.
Jets 3, New England 4. In the AFC North, I'm going to give it to the Ravens, Bengals, Browns, Steelers in that order. The Ravens, Bengals is going to be, I think it's going to go down to the wire. The Ravens can't seem to turn that corner to dominance, and the Bengals turn the ball over a lot. We just, we don't know up and down what Joe Burrow going to do, not do. Great quarterback. I think, he's going to have great career, if not Hall of Fame career as he continues, but too many turnovers. But Ravens winning right now, so they'll probably go a game ahead of the Bengals. However, I think it's going to come down to the stress for those two, but I got the Ravens ahead of the Bengals in that division. Steelers, I guess you call it rebuilding. They look like a train wreck. And the Browns can't, they just can't ever get right. They got the quarterback. He can't play. They didn't hold it together long enough for him to come in and kind of save the day. But, they're not out of it yet, but we'll see how that plays out. In the AFC South, from top to bottom, I got the Titans. I'm going to pick the Jaguars over the Colts. The Jaguars play good football. The Colts seem not to make sense in the way they play football. I can't figure the Colts out. I haven't watched a whole lot of their games this year, but games that they should easily win, they drastically lose. Games that you thought they didn't have a chance, they win. They just fired their coach. Matty Ice ain't, talk about time. Time has caught up with Matty Ice. And then the Jaguars, now that they got, suburban, urban out of there, they seem like they're, now they're figuring out how to gel as a team, and they scrappy. So any team with some scrap, I give them their props. They, the fact that they won 3 games, that isn't, they're 3 games that I wouldn't have thought that they would have won based on them being the Jaguars. So playoffs for the Colts, playoffs for the Jaguars, no. But, they're the Jaguars, I have a tendency to pick them more in their matchups than I would have thought. The Texans, forget about it. I don't know what's going on in Houston. I lived there for a little while. great city most of the time, but that football team, I don't have nothing. I don't know what's going on with the Texans. All right, AFC West. Now this is the division that they said was going to be the best in football preseason, and
Yeah, I remember that.
Russell Wilson looks like he might be the worst quarterback in football during the season. But from top to bottom, I got the Chiefs, the Chargers, Raiders, Broncos. You know, my homeboy, Raiders fan, he watched the show, so he'll probably kill me if I put Raiders over the Broncos. But, you know, 6-1, half a dozen of the others. Raiders got shut out by the Saints, which makes no sense. You grown-ass team getting shut out. But playoffs, Chiefs, I'm confident in. That means the Chargers going to have to be a wild card. And with, you know, the AFC East, I don't know what the playoff standings look like today, but shit, they might send 3 teams. So it'll be interesting. I think with the Chargers missing the playoffs how they did last year, if it happens again this year, they're going to have to do some soul searching in their coaching ranks. They got the quarterback. They have receivers that are getting older, but you know, the Chargers should be walking into the playoffs, and for whatever reason, they're not. All right, so now we're in the NFC. I could start with the East, but my Giants in the East, so I'm going to start from the bottom up. NFC West, this is a tough one. The Cardinals are at the bottom. Forget about it. Kyler Murray, whatever. The Rams won the Super Bowl last year, and Matt Stafford is my fantasy quarterback, and it appears to have been a drafting mistake.
When did they win the Super Bowl?
Last year. So what you saying? It's old news. What's done is done. Move on. He only throws the Cooper Kupp, and you know, with the camera angles, I don't know if it's because nobody's open or if that's the only person he looks for. I think he really is missing Odell, but you know, and then the 49ers, that's Mo team. They another one that don't make sense to me. Like I felt like with their defense, they should be beating everybody all the time, but they're at 500, and I don't know if they're on the rise or on the decline. So,
Yeah.
And then your boy Geno Smith is balling. Who the hell saw that coming?
Brad
Who
County,
the hell
Miramar
saw that
High.
coming? Oh, you saw it coming?
What's up?
You saw it coming?
I'ma act
Is
like
that
I
what you're
did.
saying? Okay, you
I'ma
do that.
act like
You
I
can
did.
do
He
that.
graduated
You can do
Miramar
that.
High. I
You can do that.
expected
Antonio
greatness out of
Brown
him.
graduated Norland High, and
And he hanging out with Ye.
I gotta give him his space. The interesting thing, so my order: Seattle 49ers, Rams, Cardinals. The thing with Seattle and Geno, what I'm wondering if the magic to Russell really was Pete Carroll. Because if it was Russ, I think it would be a better performance in Denver. But it's not, and Geno is. And the commonality for both quarterbacks is being in Seattle playing for Pete Carroll. So we'll see how Geno plays out, how the rest of the season plays out. But, you know, Geno, they look good, man. And you know, the Legion of Boom is gone, but the defense is strong. They got a great running back. So I think Seattle in the playoffs. I think Seattle win the division. The NFC South, the division of complete ineptitude. Brady snuck one out last night against the Rams, which epitomizes the Rams for who they are. But everybody in that division is below 500. Brady's marriage is done. That shit ain't even falling apart. It's done. So he got residual from that emotional experience. He yelling at his old lineman, but he probably really yelling at himself for his life choices.
Yeah. Where is that energy? Where was that energy with yourself, buddy?
That's if they didn't say it, you know, they wanted to say it, right? So order. I got Atlanta and Tampa the same, because Atlanta historically is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, but they got the same record as the Bucks. So I don't know what's going on. The Saints, Panthers, they not winning the division.
Can I say that Atlanta's doing better than I thought they would this year?
You can say that because they are. I mean, they're under 500, which that's not the surprise, but the fact that they're tied for first in their division, that is the surprise. Partially because the Bucks suck, but they've won some games and they've been in some games.
I thought they would have been like 2-15, 2-14.
But
you know what I'm saying? The 2-win team.
Yeah, I like Mariota though, and so I'm glad he's getting a chance to, be quarterback, be starter again for a team. Let's see how long he keep the spot. But
I know you got more conferences to go. I was just throwing that in there.
I'll probably keep an eye out for Atlanta, start paying attention to them a little more. But, a push between the Bucks, Falcons, and then Saints, Panthers, 2 tiers in the bucket. AFC North, I got the Vikings, Bears, Lions, Packers. Packers suck. And I'm partially biased. Aaron Rodgers get on my nerves. Kind of the Kanye Kyrie syndrome dynamic. I don't want to say I'm happy to see them losing, but I'm not sad to see them losing. But the Vikings, I think, are real. Kirk Cousins is still Kirk Cousins, but they 7-1, so he ain't mucked it up. And the Bears, man, they're not a great team, but Justin Fields is starting to find his rhythm. He's starting to, if not a great passer at this stage, he's learning to use his athleticism more, and then he can make all the throws. And so I think this year, where he is right now, where he's playing right now, the future is limitless for him as long as he continues to develop as a thrower. Because I think both him and Lamar, as great athletes as they are, Cam Newton showed us that there's only so much impact on that body that you can take as a quarterback and continue to be a great thrower. So I got Vikings, Bears, Lions, Packers. And, I got love for the Lions, man. I hate that they just can't ever consistently figure it out. And I think their coach going to get fired again. Another coach is going to get fired again.
I wanted him to win, man. There's something about his energy.
Oh, man, he got the energy. And, the hard knocks didn't help keep me from liking his energy. It made me like it more, but you got to have wins. You got to win. You got to win. All right.
Results is a business.
The NFC East.
Come on.
Watch it. Well, they're not going to send 4 teams to the playoffs. I don't think that's going to be possible. Mathematically, maybe it is, but I can't see that being realistic. That being said, as you are forcing me to, I go ahead and give the rank to the Eagles. I'm not putting the Cowboys above the Giants. It's just not going to happen. I don't care what anybody say. They got the same record. I could give 2 hitters in the bucket. I ain't doing it. So Eagles, Giants, Cowboys, Commanders. I think the Eagles are real, man. I got some of my Giants homies that keep trying to tell me that they for fake, but you can't argue with 8-0. And it's not like it's a struggle. They're not on the 8-0 struggle bus. They winning the games they're supposed to win. They got a good handle most of the time. And the quarterback, he showed up. He showed up. It's funny, he got benched for Tua, but both of them are shining in the same season.
I'm sorry. It just makes Alabama look great. I don't want to, I mean, it does, especially during that time. Think about the talent that he has cycled through in recent years, even just through we talk about those 2 guys at quarterback and the fact that there was an overlap there, right? That's just, now the Eagles are my favorite quote unquote story narrative right now. I like how they're doing it. I like the image and energy that's coming with it. I love the fact, I like how Jalen is handling his business at quarterback. And I see them as more than serviceable in all aspects, whether you're going offense, defense, special teams. They're more than serviceable in every way. And it's like that kid that gets a B+ in everything, even if he doesn't get an A in anything. And between that and the fact that their style of play travels well, I think they deserve all the respect right now. Their biggest enemy is the potential for complacency that comes with the success and the cushy lead.
the subject matter experts have a lot of different perspectives on undefeated and what have you. I think, to your point, they will benefit from a loss, because if they go into the playoffs undefeated, I think that pressure for the youth on that team is going to be a lot. I think the best team that we've seen in our lifetime was that Patriots team that finished the season undefeated, and we see what happened. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Eli did that thing. And so
learning how to lose.
Yeah, the Eagles don't have the fortitude. This season's Eagles don't have the fortitude of that 08 Patriot team, 07, 08 Patriot team. So go ahead and, get a couple losses during the regular season, get up in your feelings, remove that from the purview. So all your focus is on is Super Bowl. But, I went down the list. If I had to pick my Super Bowl today, I would still, Pat Mahomes, man, they too much. And I think, did they play Buffalo already? What happened in that game? Buffalo beat them, right? Let me see.
I feel like they did.
Yeah, hold on.
The games start blurring together.
Yeah, Buffalo beat them 24-20. So, Buffalo won the head on so far, but it's regular season game. I think Pat Mahomes, if he's healthy with the team that they have, I think they survived life without Cheetah. I got Chiefs out of the AFC, and out of the NFC, besides my Giants getting there, to me, it's going to be out of the Vikings and Philadelphia, I think.
Would you indulge me? Okay, so I see you do with your conferences there. Overall power 3, entire league.
3?
Would you put them against? Would you put the Bills ahead of the Eagles? And I'm gonna come at you and also find out how much value you put on the head-to-head rankings, because yes, the Bills on the head-to-head with the Chiefs right now, right? But the Dolphins on the head-to-head with the Bills.
See, I think the Bills beat the Eagles. I think the Dolphins beat the Eagles. I think the Eagles versus the Titans would be a hell of a game if Tannehill playing, because the inability to throw, you got to be able to throw a little bit. I think the AFC is stronger-ish.
Mm-hmm.
The AFC top is stronger than the NFC top.
Okay.
But in the AFC, I got the Chiefs. In the top 3, I'm looking at the Chiefs and the Eagles. That third slot, predicated on, the way I kind of went down the list, the 3-4 would have to be somewhere between the Dolphins and the Vikings, because it's so weird for me, but the Dolphins are playing some great football, man.
And for some, you notice there was no Bills.
Yeah, because I got the Dolphins ahead of the Bills.
Okay.
I got the Dolphins ahead of the Bills. I don't know if it's a fluke, or I'm not a Bills fan, so I don't see every minute of I don't see every inch and every play. But they got beat by the Jets and the Dolphins, and that's within the division.
There's always been this part of America that wants to see Buffalo successful in football. I remember back when they were showing up to the Super Bowl consecutively and still leaving without it. I forgot what part of our childhood that was, but I do remember that
that was the 90s, because the first game was against my Giants. The second game was the Redskins, and first Super Bowl was against the Giants, which I think was 90. Then the Redskins after that, and then 2 against the Cowboys. So you're talking about the early 90s.
That's that flip from elementary into middle school. That's when, hell, you and the mother boys from around the way, y'all was still teaching me the rules to the game. Football was still new to me.
Yeah. The good old days.
Why y'all play with this odd-shaped ass ball anyway?
That's funny.
What's wrong with y'all?
I was hanging out with my son, one of his homies, and his father is from Zimbabwe. And so, my son, big football, and he's pretending to, and he's not pretending. He gonna see this. I ain't gonna say he pretending. He's liking basketball. So, I ain't played basketball in 20 years, but I've been on the court twice with him in the last 2 weeks. And so we with his homie, and between his friend and his dad, they throwing the football like, what is this shite? You know what I mean? Like this, what is this? But when they pulled out that soccer ball, who was me? I'm like about to fall on my face. I kicked the soccer ball one time. I was playing kickball. So it went up and out of the field. And I was like, I ain't about this life. Let me just play catch with my son and stop embarrassing myself.
Good show.
Yeah. So, all right, my dude, we'll take a break and come back with Are You Entertained? Welcome back, Unsolicited Genius. Brother Craig, are you entertained? What have you been watching?
Disney. I finally saw the newest Downton Abbey, A New Era.
I know the name, but I ain't watched it.
Yeah, I've been, well, like I said before, this time of year, I get obsessed with sport. So it's been mostly sport, but I'm looking forward to some things. But as far as what I've seen, I'd have to mention Downton Abbey. I've been watching The Andor on Disney, The Peripheral.
What's that?
I want to say that's on Amazon Prime.
The Peripheral.
In short, it merges the idea of playing VR, virtual reality video games with, to some extent, time travel. So in short, the VR headset has gotten so advanced that you feel everything as if you're in the body that you're in when you put the headset on, right? So there's two things that's going on. She puts on a headset, she starts occupying another body. But after a couple visits, she realizes it's not that it's not just like some fake body in a video game, because she realizes all of her senses are totally working. She's actually occupying a body about 50, 60 years into the future. Right?
Okay.
And, and there's some other nuance that needs to be parsed through, but it's kind of, okay, what if we could time travel using a VR kind of thing, VR headset?
Okay.
So your consciousness goes and leaves your physical and goes to that time, occupies that avatar, and lives a whole different life there.
Okay. All right, that sounds intriguing. I can check that out. You say Amazon?
This one's on Amazon, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I watched maybe last weekend before. I binge watched The House of Dragon. Irresponsibly over the course of 2 nights, watched 10 episodes, right? In short, no spoilers. If you ain't seen it, go see it. If you've seen it, you already know. I was highly disappointed with the final few episodes of Game of Thrones. Had me very disinterested in The House of Dragon.
Okay.
I will say that they did an excellent job telling the Game of Thrones story in a prequel. The imagery, the scenery, the dragons, the suspense, the drama, the intimacies, all align with the Game of Thrones that I fell in love with. So clap for getting it right.
Do you think they would do? Okay, go ahead.
Now, what you say?
I've enjoyed it. However.
Okay, we'll see how.
There's a part of me that feels like they rushed to get, not in the production of, but as we have this conversation, we are at the end of season 1.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen, just using as our measuring stick, Rhaenyra go from a little girl into a mother of a lot.
A lot, yeah.
Right? And she's talking to her oldest about having kids because he's that close in succession, et cetera, et cetera. It's a real concern for him now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like part of me wonders if we got there so fast. I'm not saying I am, well, we must stay true to the book. Hell, I didn't read the book. I read the synopsis. Right?
The clip notes.
And a lot of it. So I'm aware of the book content. So as a result, I'm like, damn, if they had just taken their time, they could have got a really good season or two out of her just growing up. I feel like they wanted to get to the Dance of the Dragons part so fast. And I understand that is the intended core of this series story. However, I feel like they could have sunk their teeth deeper into some of the things that led to where they are now. Not that it's bad. I just wondered if they could.
Yeah, I hear you. I think at the point of the transition that they made, I was like, wait, but they did it at the halfway point, right? So they had 5 with her younger, 5 with her older. So I just kind of said, all right, you transitioned us. Let's see what happened. And there was enough meat in the second half that I didn't feel like I was missing subject matter that I needed to see from the first half. So I follow your point, but I accept the transition. Was it sharp? For sure, right?
2-time jumps in one season, man, like boom, boom.
The Starks from the original Game of Thrones, right? We watched every minute of their life from almost conception to birth to retirement, right? We've seen them grow, so they stretched out their storyline. But, you know, I figured they had somewhere they was trying to get to. The way Game of Thrones ended felt rushed, but I'm okay with how the House of Dragons went. I'm okay.
I'm enjoying it so far, but you know, I am prone to a little escapism and fantasy. But I think it's great.
Yeah, no, you got to decompress. You know, it's if it was all day, every day, and you weren't showing up to work because of it, that's something different. And like I said, I did it irresponsibly. I don't recommend that for anybody, but we got through it and I survived.
After tonight, my last few days of work will be obvious. Oh, he must have won something.
All right, well, go get it, man. Just make sure you share. The other thing that I watched was I took my son to see Avatar in 3D, the original, because the sequel is coming out, I believe, at the end of the year. I don't know what the 3D situation will be with the sequel. I think I read that you can see 3D, you won't need glasses, so that's going to be interesting. But one, the original Avatar in 3D was the most beautiful cinematic thing I had ever seen up to that point in my life.
It was fantastic.
3D that has occurred since then has not measured up. So I think it's still the most beautiful thing that I've seen in the movie theater at this stage in my life. And so my son knew that it was my favorite singular movie. I'm more Star Wars than anything else. Return of the Jedi is king, but you know, Star Wars exists in the series. So outside of Star Wars, for me, it was Avatar. And so my son, he's 13 now. So I was actually a little worried. You know, I thought it might be one of them situations where daddy loves and then the son be like, But he was in the theater trying to, you know, the stuff. He's like, wow, you know, he was trying to touch it. And when it was all said and done, he was like, it was great. That was a win-win for Papa. But one of the things, and to have watched it 1,001 times, something that resonated with me that's relevant in today's time, the main character, Jake Sully, in explaining, if you haven't seen Avatar, get your life. But in the conquering or the Earth colonizing an alien planet, you know, colonizers, American history, what have you. But in explaining kind of the psychology behind it, the main character said, when people are sitting on what you want, you make them your enemy, then you're justified in taking it. And I was like, wow, if he don't explain life today, life yesterday, life tomorrow. It was an insightful quote, and I think it's relevant. And I think when we talk about politics and the shenanigans and the manipulation and the lies, When people have what you want, whether it's land, whether it's resource, whether it's money, if you make them the enemy with your laws, with your rules, with your regulations, with your prejudices, you're justified in taking what they have. So, I just leave that there, let folks marinate on it. So what you been listening to?
I'm all over the place. So as far as entire albums, I don't get as many entire albums as I used to. I'd want to say that, like, even Drake 21 Savage came out a couple days ago. I've been meaning to sit down and listen to it, the whole thing. I've only gotten a couple pieces.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
You've enjoyed it?
It's not bad.
Rated against other Drake albums.
I'd have to sit down with it longer, but my biased reaction will tell you that it's better than other Drake albums when it comes to just rapping and hip hop.
Can you play it all the way through without skipping?
Yes. Which makes it better than any other Drake album.
I got. Here's the thing. This historically, one of my favorite versions of Drake has been Timestamp Poppy. That's the name I come up with. Timestamp Poppy. That's when he makes these songs like 4 a.m. in Houston, 5:30 in Sacramento. Like he gives a date and a place. Are there any of those waiting for me? Because usually he's dissing somebody. Like there's a lot of subliminal.
There's some controversy. There's some controversy in there. There's some Megan Thee Stallion controversies in there. I'm not clear. Yeah, I'm not. I don't even know. I'm not clear on what I heard. I heard Stallion and Lion and Shot, but I don't know. And I tend to not dig.
But are any of the song names timestamps?
I'm pulling it up now. Not that I recall.
That's timestamp.
Oh yeah, 3 a.m. on Glenwood. 3 a.m. on Glenwood. But that's
so there is at least one song from me on there.
But that might just be 21 by itself. I probably gave it 2 playthroughs, and I'm not, the way I play, I don't always attach a name of the song to it. I get the track number. If it bump and I love it, I'll go back to the song's name. So I can't tell you what 3 a.m. on Glenwood is about. But to your point, it's on there.
Otherwise, I've been working on a November playlist. Everything from Wyclef Jean, Wyclef to whoever. If you make to what's that? Sweet November. I guess any November song.
Sweet November. That's what you're talking about?
Yes.
Who is that?
I think
Troop?
it's The Deal. The Deal
or Troop? Oh, I haven't heard that in a minute. I think it's
something like that too. But Troop also did something along those lines. But I've been gathering all of the November songs into a November playlist. That's a side project. I got a little bit of Black Thought. Still got to go back to it. There's a lot of albums I've started, but I haven't been able to sit with anything because when I trying to listen to new music is following everybody else's energy for me right now, right? And I do want to kind of follow it, but what I'm going through is my own energy is like Troop, The Deal, the sweet, like old R&B. I've been making old playlists. I haven't really been drawn to a lot of the new stuff. I've been tagging some stuff, and then there's one playlist that of one of our former students from my work site from my school. He's been really active. He has the Rich Flex. He's credited on that album. One of our former students. Rich Flex is a song on the one we just mentioned, the Drake 21 project. I didn't realize how involved he was across so many genres. So named Simon said he has a playlist on Spotify with a lot of the music he's worked on, from Afro beats to reggae. And just recently, last couple of days, been listening to that when I found out that he has such a big body of work for such a young man. He's in his early 20s, got some Grammy nods already. And like I said, he's featured on a couple major albums this year alone. So it's like, seeing what some of my former students are out there doing, or former students from our school are out there doing, it's been kind of cool. And I even, slightly off subject, even this past Saturday, I realized in both the UCF and Michigan game, I'm like, damn, in both those games, I'm looking at a young man on the screen that a few years ago, I was teaching how to solve an equation, right?
Good
and I'm
job,
spending
teacher.
my Saturdays watching them play. It's awesome.
Good job, teacher. That's kudos to you and them. All right.
Yeah, they're great
so
kids, man.
I got one song question for you before we keep it going. What is your theme song, right? In the life of Craig, and that 5-minute PowerPoint slideshow, not because you're gone, but just because we celebrating you. We telling the story of your life. Maybe it's your 45th birthday. Let's do that. You're 44, so your 45th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
What is your theme song? One song.
Ooh, see, it's spinning. Like the hardest part is picking one. I'd want the DJ to mix like 10 over a 4-minute span so I could get them all in. But okay, barring a
We'll
street
do that
mix,
for your 50th. We'll do that for
word.
your 50th. For your 45th, let's get one.
Like if I had to pick one that represented me right now as a theme song. Ooh, a new song. Can I look through my songs list real quick, or got to be off the top of the head?
Yeah, off the top of your head. Just follow your heart.
Oh well, I'm gonna. It's easy for me to say All I Need, Jay-Z from Blueprint. Doop 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 doop. You know what I'm saying? That all I need is it hit. It's rare I can play it and it don't hit, but it's kind of like, oh, my bucket low. Like you talk about when you say theme song, there's a little bit of how the way Jay presents himself in that song, right? It's kind of aligned with, yo, man, I got my bucket, I got my necessities. Yeah, my necessities are different than yours, but they mine. And I'm out here, it's that, and it's delivered with that braggadocious, confident swag that I rock with. Where you at on the song list? I got to give more thought to the theme song.
When we come back to it, we could revisit it. We do housekeeping at the end of every show, so we'll add it next week or however we do. For me, it's always going to be Outkast Southern Playalistic, man. That, and kind of like what you said, is not so much that lyrically it's application to most or all aspects of my life. It's the rhythm. It's the, when the song comes in, and Big Boy hit his track and Dre do his swag. And, for me, it was the music video, it was the rhythm, it was the flow. And for me, that song came, we talked about Snoop earlier, the West Coast, the gangster rap, NWA. Like that was my nursery. That, hip hop nursery for me was NWA, Snoop, West Coast. That's what I was fed, but it wasn't necessarily what nourished me. And so when that Outkast came in '94, my homeboy, shout out to Willie, introduced me to Outkast and 8-Ball MJG. When that track hit, man, it was just like I found my rhythm. I found my hip hop music lane. And over time, kind of like you said, as much other music has come, my love for Pac, Biggie came, love Biggie, Nas, Jay-Z, Black Thought. I'm a big Lupe fan, whoever, right? Whoever we listen to now, and even Outkast with all the music that they have since created, when that track come on, it's like, all I hear is, "You home, Carlton."
Damn.
That's a classic. That's a classic, especially out of University of Florida days, man. There's so many memories attached to that song, attached to that album. So, all right, but yeah, if you come up with a different one, you can let us know. So before we close out, what have you read? What have you been reading?
Exactly.
All right.
I can sit here and lie, but I'm not good at remembering lies, so I don't.
That's okay. You get your education how you get it. You already told the people how to get to the journals and to the studies. You got your athletes doing their thing on Saturday, so ain't no judgment.
Yeah, man. Like I now do I have a new book purchased? Is sitting next to my journal for me to? Yeah, I have one sitting there.
What book? All right, what's the new book that you purchased?
The Day Came Before Columbus. Actually, it's my second copy of this one. I gave away my first copy. I never got through it, but somebody needed it more than me.
No, you can learn through osmosis too, right? So
I tried it.
I've been reading a few different books, got a little book club and all that stuff that I'm in. But the one that I want to share is when it's titled When No One Is Watching, the novel by Lisa Cole. And good book. She writes in the voice of a Black woman and a white male, which is interesting. But it's a novel, but it gets into the ills of gentrification. And it was insightful for me because, I've seen gentrification unfold, from Miami, Overtown. What's the area called now? I can never remember.
All the new names, they confuse me. New Moral, I don't know.
What is it? Well, it'll come to me, but that,
you heard me say Joe Robbie earlier, bro. I refuse to conform to these new names.
Things that I would have never imagined occurring in that part of the city, downtown Miami, Wynwood. That's what it is. It's all
there you go.
Wynwood, right? So I've seen it here in Austin. There's big gentrification on the east side, the original place where the Black people were. But, at one point in time, I kind of viewed it as, capitalistic life progressing, right? But what the novel highlighted was the means in which they used to get the people out of their homes. If they didn't take that first, second, third, fourth, fifth offer to sell, the things that the system would do in order to obtain that piece of property, whether it's planting drugs to arrest the teenagers so the parents have to put the house up to get them out of jail, whether it's introducing a narcotic of sorts, so now somebody is no longer has the mental wherewithal to maintain their home. And so the efforts at which they go to devalue the property, to discredit the owner, to use that the laws that say it's not illegal to lie, they use those laws to get the people out of their houses. And so to me, gentrification is real, and I can't speak to every gentrified community. I don't know what I don't know, but is recognizing that along with a lot of other things that transpire in the country, for the powers that be to get what they want will undergo sinister means. And so if you're in a community that is on watch for modification, for improvements, keep your eyes open and be safe. And on that note, we'll take a break, do some housekeeping, and close out the show.
Oh, you got
Welcome back to Unsolicited Genius. Don't forget, we're on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. So wherever we are, like, subscribe, follow, and please share. We're trying to do great things. We think we are, being well received in our messaging. So please, help us get it out. Special thank you to our sponsors, Legacy Wear. Your legacy awaits at www.legacywearus.com. Shout out to Megacore CBD, broad spectrum hemp derived CBD, the way nature intended. You can visit them at www.megacorecbd.com. And a special shout out to Aura Rainwater, Hydrate and Elevate. And you can visit them at www.aura.rainwater. Should know how to spell that. If not, holler at Craig. He's the teacher. www.aurarainwater.com. Check out our sponsors. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your support. Mentioned at the top of the show, had a special surprise for those still watching, for those that's picking us up later. Thank you for listening. Thank you for engaging. Your feedback has been received and well received. And so Unsolicited Genius will be going live every Monday for the foreseeable future at the same time. 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central. So find us here again next week. Unsolicited Genius Live, Unsolicited Genius Conversations with Carlton, Thoughts of Genius, all that stuff. We doing it. We here for forever, as long as God willing and the creek don't rise. God willing and the creek don't rise. Unsolicited would be here for you. And with that, any words before we get out of here, Brother Craig, for the peoples?
Be love, give love, accept love. That's it.
Okay.
I mean that with love.
All right. All right, so close out the show's thoughts of genius. I had a segment. We got some individual thoughts of genius floating out there. We got thoughts of genius on the show. So overnight tonight, there will be a total lunar eclipse. I am one of those individuals that keep up with the fortunes and the changes, the fortunes that evolve with the changes of time connected to new moon, full moon, meaning I like to do some journal and I have some routines that allow me to, on a monthly basis, kind of renew, refresh, keep in mind what I'm here for, keep in mind what I'm doing. You know, I know my zodiac sign, my sun, my moon, my ascending, but what I find as I approach the stratosphere, there's a lot of criticism about people who experience and explore this space, right? There's a lot of criticism of people who do things differently than you do. We talk on the show, we have opinions, we have thoughts, we have feelings, we have reactions, we have responses, all fair, well, and good. But how often are you, is social media telling people what they need to stop doing immediately, telling people what they need to start doing immediately, or else they risk life, limb, or failure? Zodiac is the stars. Zodiac is when you're born. Zodiac didn't start with me, it didn't start with you, it's been here for a long time. Now, whether it's biblically based, whether it's God approved, it's here. And so just as there's people who are agnostic, just as there's people who are atheists, just as there's people who don't believe in Christianity the way you do, Muslim, Buddhism, Judaism, there's religions, there's faith, there's practices, there's belief system. All that to say, God is good and let the people live. I can't tell you if being Aquarius means definitively that I am incompatible with a Leo. I know there's a lot of Leos that I love, but when it comes to being in a relationship with them, it don't feel right. I can't tell you if my sun sign, my moon sign is indicative of who I am, who I think I am, my ego, etc. I know what it feels like. And there's books and learnings and ways for me to educate myself in these things. Will it replace my religion? No. Can it be paired and married with my religion? Possibly. But allow me the space to explore this for myself. When we get in the presence of others in physical form or virtual form, social media spaces, and come from the holier than thou perspective, we put ourselves at risk for the holier correcting us. And so my message here overall is live your life, pursue your faith. It's a journey, not a destination that you seek. It's about the journey that you're on. I'm on my journey. Craig is on his journey. Uncle Mo, prayers to his family, is on his journey. We all are on our journeys, and we collide and we intersect and we crash into each other all along the space. But as you encounter others whose journeys don't reflect yours, maybe there's something for you to understand. Maybe there's something for you to offer. Every person is a teacher and a student if you allow for it. And so rather than criticizing somebody's practice, rather than judging somebody's belief, give them their space. And the reality is, for our social media holier and thous, if we all put the medias down for a little while and pondered the stars, we all would grow a little closer to God. On that note, good morning, good afternoon, good night. There's been another episode of Unsolicited Genius. Thank you for joining us. We'll catch you next week. Same genius time, same genius channel.